Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Her Journey Told podcast. On this show, we will focus on strengthening women's mental fitness through sharing the joy, struggle, and wisdom of each woman's journey. Our show is powered by Pivotal Moments. Go to pivotalmoments.org to learn more. Hello, and welcome to the Her Journey Told podcast. This podcast is powered by Pivotal Moments Media. I'm your host, Sandy Lutton, and I'm excited to be joined by no strangers to this podcast. Both of my guests today have been you've seen on this podcast before, and I'll be honest, you will see again. But it's super exciting. I've got Beth Shaha that you've seen many times. She's a master certified life coach. And I've got Jen Hampton, who is an intuitive and spiritual medium. So welcome to both of you.
Hey, glad to be here.
So you both are part of my own mental fitness journey. So you are, I would call you my personal gurus on my mental fitness journey. And you both have helped me kind of really figure out who I am and how to be true to myself and really discover what makes me who I am and what makes me happy and bring joy in my life. And sometimes it's just a matter of, really listening to yourself, which I think a lot of us have a hard time doing because we tend to be people pleasers. We also have, additional responsibilities to serving others. And what I mean by that is both of you are entrepreneurs who have who've left careers and started your own companies, right? And so there's responsibilities to that. Both of you are mothers, so you have responsibilities to your children and your family. And then sometimes when you go down this path, you start to ask yourself, where do I fit into all of this? And I know that's kind of what really prompted me to say, I need to work at this. I need to put in the energy and figure that out for myself so that I can be a better person for me, but also a better person to everyone around me. So I'm curious today to hear from both of you. We've had so many in-depth conversations. So I think it's funny. It's in some ways, it's like, where do we even begin? But I think one great place to start is mental health, mental wellness, mental fitness. What does that mean to you? And Jen, I'm going to throw it right at you, put you on the spot and say, so tell me, what does that mean to you specifically? And there's no wrong answer here. I really want, what's that personal definition for you?
So I think we've been trained, mental health, mental wellness has really come up. It's on the rise, right? Within the last 5 years specifically on how to take care of ourselves mentally and what do we need. And I see so much of, it's more like relax, take care of yourself, like relax and take hot baths and, take care of your muscles and journal, and which all of those things are so important, right? I apply those to my life weekly. But I'm going to throw this at you. What about specifically for me? It's interesting that we're talking about this because I feel like I've been figuring this out within the last month, maybe. But isn't part of what mental wellness and mental health actually having fun?
Absolutely.
And remembering to have fun and doing things that take you out of your comfort zone and you take a chance on yourself. Part of that mental wellness is not only taking a chance on yourself professionally, right? Like doing something that totally freaks you out, but doing something that you're like, oh my gosh, this piques my interest, but it scares the hell out of me, like belly dancing. Right? Okay. That's just that's a surface one, right? But it's like, I don't know how to move my body like that. And can I become that vulnerable? Like a lot of us women, it's difficult to become that vulnerable, to move our bodies in that way.
Take what your mama gave you, Jen.
Take what, right? I don't want, but I'll shake it. But part of it is it's almost like you build confidence in yourself by trying something new that's fun and reinvigorates your life. And piques your curiosity again. And I think that's, I think we sometimes miss the mark on that, because so much of our focus is like, I really like, I need to go to bed at a reasonable time tonight. And I need to, you know, like our self-care, our mental wellness is so much evolved around, you know, not having fun. I feel like sometimes it's condensed into this, like, it's another thing I have to think about, and it's another thing I have to try. But I feel like part of it is like, you know, re-engaging and taking a chance on yourself and doing something that, I don't know, makes you remember why you're living life.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's
100%. That was me recently on my surfing trip, right? And it was like,
Yes.
first of all those narratives in my head were, you're too old, you're out of shape, you can't do this, it's too scary. It was amazing. And it was hard and humbling, but I loved every minute of it. So I totally agree. So Beth,
Exactly.
how about you? What do you think about that?
I agree. Well, I just want to say I agree with what Jen's saying, because often we get so forward focused and thinking what we should do, what we have to do, what's going on, that we, first of all, don't even chill to freak out, right? We just need to, like, you know, give ourselves a little bit of space. But I do think, you know, that creativity and that perspective is something that when we give ourselves the opportunity to be in its way, it automatically chills us out. It teaches us something. It allows us to laugh. It gives us a perspective that we need to be able to re-engage. And I'm talking the littlest things. The other day I was at my son's tennis match, and I looked down and saw all these ants having a ball. I mean, work. And I was just watching them, and I was like, where are you going? What you doing? And then my daughter had some chips. And so I said, let's see what they do with this. It was like a salt and vinegar chip. And I put it down like manna from heaven. And I put it down, and like they walked around it for a little while. And then it was like they went back and told their friends about it. And then they all came back to it. And then they just covered it completely. And it was like party time, right? So not only for me was it really cool just to be in that little teeny moment to say, gosh, this is what's happening in our world, these little teeny things and the awareness, but also for them, like, talk about taking a break and just having a party, right? So I agree with you, Jen. It's so important that we do those. And so what I was going to say ties so nicely into that when you asked that question. I'm really realizing more and more, the more I can just sink into the present moment. Just like that, you know, whatever it is. And sometimes it's intense and busy, you know, and I got a lot going on. Sometimes it's not, but how can I just sink in and either notice something around me by how it smells, what I hear, what I see, you know, drench my senses, drench myself with my senses, or maybe it's just enjoying that moment, you know, just, you know, with whoever I'm with, a conversation, whatever that is. I just feel like the more that I can drop into that present space, the better it is for me. Because I'm literally just giving myself permission to be right there, right then. And I think that has really, really helped me in my mental fitness. And it seems so easy, and it seems so,
It's not always easy though, is it?
Right. Yeah. But to say, enjoy the present moment, right? You know, people, it's just like, people are saying that, but literally making the choice. And that's the difference. It's saying, you know what, I'm just going to embrace this right now and be right here, right now. And it has given me so much freedom. And so that when like I said, when I have to engage, but when I don't, release and feel that freedom. And that's been a lifesaver for me lately.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because what I heard you both say was, Jen was like, what you're saying really requires you to take the time and figure out what makes you happy also, but what challenges you, right? And pushes you. What are the things that are going to challenge you and push yourself to the next level? And Beth, what you're saying is enjoy that moment. And I think that is such an interesting concept. And I don't know if you guys have seen it lately, but on social media, there's this photo that's been going around, and everyone's got their cameras out. And then there's an older woman who's just kind of sitting there soaking it in, not recording, not taking a photo. And everyone's like, what's that crazy woman doing? Right. But it's so true. Sometimes I think we forget to take those moments and say, oh, I'm just going to live in this moment right now. And I remember one time I went on you guys know I love to travel, and that's part of what keeps me mentally fit
Wow.
and do it. And one of the things that I truly love to do, especially going somewhere I've never been before. And I went on a trip to Africa, Zimbabwe, and, I wanted to capture every single moment I could capture. And I had my camera with all the big lenses and all this stuff. And, my camera broke the first day I was there. And I was absolutely devastated. Nothing was working. I couldn't figure it all out. And I was like, I lugged all this stuff over. But what it forced me to do was actually get in front of the camera versus behind the camera and just live and experience that journey. And it was such so that was my second trip there. It was such a different perspective than my first trip. And someone said to me about my first trip, they're like, wow, your pictures are so good. It looks like you could have, looks like you just pulled these off the internet, like National Geographic, which was a compliment. But the truth is, you can pull those pictures off the internet. So why do we work so hard to capture that moment when we could just be in it and live it and experience it? And it was definitely a much more enriching journey, right? That second time around, because I wasn't so caught up in capturing the moment. I was more caught up in just living it and experiencing it. And that taught me a lesson about the trips that I go on now and how I experience them. And it's interesting that you said also, Beth, it's a choice, right? And I think sometimes we often struggle with, where should I be focused? And it's easy to get caught up in I got to worry about my finances, or I have to worry about, what I did yesterday and failed miserably at, and how I make sure I don't do that again, right? You're living everywhere, but in that moment. And that's one of the things that you've taught me quite a bit on focusing on how to get there. And I think the other thing is going back to kind of pulling it all together, what you both just said, is knowing what is going to serve you well. And in order to do that, I think you have to go through that journey of learning who you are. And one way of doing that, I think, is really tapping into your own intuition and what your body's telling you, what your mind is telling you, and what your soul, your spirit is telling you. But how do you do that? I think sometimes we can be so caught up. I'd love your thoughts on how to do that, how to really tap into that inner voice and what it's saying, and what your body and mind are telling you that you actually need. So jump in.
Well, that's a loaded question.
No.
But so I feel like that's also such a, that can change for each individual. It can be different for each person you talk to. One of the things, I think Beth and I have talked about this too before. It's like, if you have something coming up and you're like, well, what's my intuition saying? Your body is also, your intuition, it comes from source, what I call source, but your body is reactive to that. So let's say you have, a meeting coming up, and you're not getting enough clarity to really step into what your intuition is telling you. So one way you can do it is, well, if I do this, how does it make me feel? So is your stomach pulling in? Is your body curling in? Are you getting anxious? Or when given the option, is your heart expanding? Now when I say that, is your heart expanding? That doesn't mean your heart, but are you relaxed in your chest? Is it making you feel excited? Maybe nervous, but excited. What's your body telling you to do? And then sometimes, if you're in the moment, it's really hard to get the clarity. You almost have to train yourself to find like a way to ground. And again, get clarity. You need to and I think it's your intuition. It's hard to listen to sometimes because it may be telling you to do something that really you're guided to do, but you're like, oh my God, if I do that, I'm going to disappoint all these people. But really, it's what you need to do for your own self. Your intuition is always guiding you in the best direction, in the highest good for yourself. Now, that may look very different for the people around you. They may be like, well, you just let us down. But you would say, yeah, but I also need to live my life through integrity. And by following through with this, I don't feel like I'm living up to the integrity that I want to live up to. Does that make sense? So it's you a couple of things. You can really tap into your body. We are so disconnected from our bodies in society right now. So it's when we, even like if you're in pain, what do? You resist it. Oh God, my shoulder hurts. Gotta take Advil. I mean, just like Beth says, like, even being in the present moment, we need to kind of come back to like leaning into whatever we're experiencing. And especially when hard feelings come up or difficult situations come up, we don't want to give ourselves the clarity to figure out what we need to do. Oh God, it's too much. That's too big of a decision. I don't want to do it. I can't make that decision now. And you just keep going. So that's why, intuition is so important, because it really does guide you in the best way possible, but you have to be brave enough to listen to it and follow through with it. So there's other ways too, like with me, with what I do, you can use cards, you can use a deck of cards and get clarity that way.
When you say that, do you mean like affirmations?
You can use affirmation cards. You can use oracle cards. You can use, some people would use tarot cards. That gets a little more intense. You would want to be a little more developed in your skills, right, if you're going to be using a tarot deck. But oracle card, you're gonna have to want to take chances on yourself, even in learning what how to communicate with your intuition. Mm-hmm. So, but even so, it's best to always come back to almost like a calming state or a neutral state to get the most clarity that you could possibly get. If you're worked up in a situation, I'm sure Beth gets this a lot with what she does. If people are worked up, if people are worked up, you're not able to clarify what you're thinking, what you're saying. So she's got to help people come back to a calm space and calmly go in and pick out, okay, well, what's happening in here?
So when I'm hearing you say, Jen, is that it goes back to Beth's point, is like finding your present moment and pulling yourself back into that present moment. So Beth, what would you add to that?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it is, ladies. It's the pause, the power of the pause, right? So partially present moment. Also the pause to say, I've got something right here on my forehead and it is blinding me, whether it's an emotion or a spiral or a situation or a hard decision. And I am so wound by that I can hardly see it. But when we take it and we create some distance and we can actually look at this, we get curious about it. We're not judgmental, because we kind of are like, oh, I wonder why this is like this. And so we are compassionate about it. We're creative about it. We're calm. We're curious, like all these things that are so important to just kind of get to know something a little bit. And so I really do believe when we create that distance, we're able to listen, because we're not as fogged. We're not as confused. We're not as blinded by what's happening, and we're able to create that space. So that is so true. I also wanted to go back to what Jen was saying about the body and the mind. Our mind-body connection is so crucial. And I do think you're right. We don't pay attention to it enough. But, science proves that our mind processes 40 bits of information per second, which is pretty amazing. But our body produces at 11 million bits per second. And that's how much our body wants to tell us stuff. So anything that's going on, it's interesting to get curious about it. What is happening? And it could be a pit in your stomach. It could be that expansiveness in your chest. It could be my definition of good things is glitter coming out of my neck. I just feel it, right? That's how I know that, okay, I'm in my zone. This is a good thing. And so really paying attention to what that body looks like. And I call that calibrating your body compass. If it feels like this, if it feels like this, what's the difference? And so as you're making decisions, do I want Italian dinner tonight? Do I want Mexican dinner, right? You start making little teeny decisions that you listen to your body that are kind of trivial, but then you start practicing it. And the more you practice it, when bigger things come up, you know, and you're thinking, okay, this is it. Now, I'm going to pause there and say, when I was thinking this morning about some of the things that we thought we might chat about today, and it made me think this, what Jen said earlier, it's about that, it's, or maybe you said it, Sandy, but the courage, right?
No, that was Jen.
It is not easy to make choices sometimes that are in alignment with your integrity and your, truth, because it does impact others. Glennon Doyle says to her 13-year-old daughter, you have so many people to disappoint. Get out there and disappoint people. It's just going to happen. And I think that's really hard because we are people pleasers and we want to not rock the boat, not rock the system. And I've had people recently, more and more have come to me, but what if, or I can't lose my job because I'm supporting my family, or I can't walk away from this because it'll make our entire family fall apart. You know, all these big giant things, and people are asking these questions, and it's not my answer. It's their answer. But at the end of the day, what's the cost?
Right.
Something little and you're feeling out of integrity and it's not worth it, fine. If it's literally costing you your mental health, your physical health, like some of these things have taken people so extreme. Workplace environment, like, you know, they can't figure out the balance and they're just working so hard. They're feeling told they need to, right? Whatever that is, whatever it is, you have a choice. But what's the cost? And are you courageous enough to move forward in a way that allows you to do that? So just tapping into your intuition in that way. The last thing that I was going to say is using metaphors, using dream analysis. You know, Jen was talking about the cards, anything that allows you to say, how is my life like an orange sticky note? I don't know, come up with 3 ways. Oh, and what's the purpose? Oh, what's its message? Oh, right. Like we learn by just putting our stuff up against even the most ridiculous things and trying to find meaning, because that's our unconscious talking to us. That's our intuition talking to us. And then we can learn. So that's a simple, easy game you can play. How is my life like a Boston fern? I don't know. Let's see. And then you take a problem or something you're trying to solve with that insight right there. You get it. Your intuition is talking.
That's fascinating. And yeah, I personally have gone down that path where, you know, I was the person working so hard in a toxic environment, but thought this is what I have to do. This is what my responsibility is. And, you know, how do I break this? But then once I did get out of it, right, and found a way, physically, I was a mess. Emotionally, mentally, I was a mess. And it took work to get there. And what I learned along the way too, is it really does take courage to face that and take that and tackle that journey. And I will always call it a mental fitness journey, because I think it's something that we absolutely must work at each and every day, just like physical fitness. It's not I've decided this month is going to be my physical fitness month, and that's going to make you physically fit. It's something you constantly have to work at. And I'm curious, for both of you, each of your own journeys, what are some of the things that you bring into day to day? And Jen, you brought up a good point, how you talk about journaling and different things. And there are so many great things there, but it does and can feel like another responsibility. Like, I don't have time for, like, here are 10 things I don't have time for, or I didn't find time for. And then you start saying, wow, I failed at my day because I didn't find time for it. At least that's how my mind works. So I'm curious, how have you guys found, what are some just ways that you've incorporated that into your daily work? Even if it's the tiniest little thing, just what are some little things that have worked for you that don't necessarily feel like work?
So much has changed for me since I was on the last podcast with you. And I left a full-time job. At that point, I was going part-time, but I left. I feel busier now, but in an energetic way. I mean, so I'm still, I can't say that I still, I am in the spiritual realm very much, but I can't sit here and tell you like, oh yes, my day is comprised of this in the morning and then this in the afternoon. And by the, like, I can't, it's just not the way that it works. But I do I do try to get outside barefoot.
Yep.
Without my shoes on. And I want to sit in the sun. Even if there's no sun and it's raining, I do try to get outside for a couple minutes a day. If I'm not out there with the kids, we're out there, but I mean, I want like 5 to 10 minutes by myself outside, no phone, no nothing. I don't want to talk to my neighbors. I just want to sit and ground. I just want to have my peace. So that's something quick. Another thing is like incorporating fun. So, I mean, I don't know I just bought a motorcycle and
what?
So that to me, that's fun. That's pushing me out of my comfort zone. I'm learning something new, but you can't have a phone. It's not like you're in the car. I cannot have a phone while I'm on my motorcycle. And that's my time where I practice, I'm quiet, I listen to the air. It's magical. So those are things where in my life currently that I'm doing. So quick is like going outside and grounding and having moments outside of quiet, like just not any, no computer, no laptop, no kids. I try, they'll usually come out, but that's quick. So, and I try to meditate when I can. And I feel like when especially in the spiritual world, like, people are like, you really should meditate 20 times a day. There's too much pressure on all this stuff. Like meditation is, again, like what Beth was saying, you're practicing calming the system, you're practicing, quieting the mind to just be in whatever space that may be. So even if I have 5 minutes, I just want to sit there quietly where I'm not, overwhelmed by outer circumstances. So those are like quick things that I try to do. Not the motorcycle riding. That's not a quick thing, but that's like something that's challenging, exciting. I'm pushing. Again, I think it's really important for us to take chances on ourselves and do things that make us uncomfortable, but bring us, like Beth said, I think Beth was talking about, like, you find freedom. You find freedom in these things that you do and you push yourself to do. You go, oh my God, I didn't know I had that in me. Like, look how powerful I am. Look how amazing I am, because I took the chance on myself. And Sandy, when you were talking about surfing and learning to surf, taking that chance, I think we also need to get out of our heads a little bit of, just because we want to do something, we think it should like look a certain way. It can be totally messy. But again, what Beth said, coming back to that present moment and being okay with the mess, but just still being like, okay, this is the ride right now. Like, I'm ready to show up for this ride. I'm going to get through it. So I don't know. Did that answer the question?
Yeah. And I have to say, I'm learning to love messy. Now, I don't like my environment or my space messy. That will never work for me. But the way I do stuff, or just taking the chance to tackle something, I'm learning that messy is a good thing. So when I go back and look at those videos of me surfing, I think, like, wow, that was a really awesome wipeout. And then I got back on the board and did it again. Like, so it's one of those things that, I'm learning to embrace messy. So I like that you said that.
And I think, like, that's pretty magical too, because it looked messy. It probably rocked you a little bit, probably threw your confidence a little bit. But the important thing is to get back up.
Right. Right.
That's what we're taught, right? Get back up, keep trying. And I think we always think of like everything as like, like everything's a step up. Well, sometimes we take 2 steps up and then we take 3 down, but we keep wanting to go up. So that could look messy to somebody who's like, you're just supposed to walk up the steps, but we're like, well, yeah, but we tripped sometimes and we went down a couple and I rolled down 4 of them, but then I came up 7. So it's just, I don't know. I think we get so lost in so many of the things that we feel that we have to do or do in a certain way that we forget to live. We forget to enjoy the ride and be present and meditate. Well, what does that look like to you? 20 minutes? Great. 5 minutes? Awesome. Trusting yourself and trusting you to find the perfect fit for your self-care and mental wellness, right?
That is
trusting yourself to find the perfect fit.
Yeah. And I think that that's an excellent point, is like, it is truly personal, and it doesn't necessarily and probably shouldn't look like someone else's journey.
Correct.
So I think that's a really powerful point, is make it personal, make it work for you. So Beth, what's your thought?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's just kind of getting up every day and say, what do I need? Jen, I know Jen was talking about this a couple of weeks ago. She and I were talking about to-do lists and how, it's like all of it's, I tell my clients all the time, all of it's really imaginary. You put it on a list, and who put it there? You put it there. Who imagined it? You did. So really, you could lose the list and wake up the next day and say, what do I need to do today? Okay, I want to love my kids. I want to show up in my marriage. I want to make a difference in the world and be loved. Okay. Those are simple. So have this like transcendental to-do list around things and allow yourself the freedom and flexibility day to day. Obviously, I'm a type A personality. I get a lot done. But when I have the moments to be able to be free in that, I'm going for it. And so I feel like, giving yourself that room and sort of this open hands policy, what's going to come? What do I need to do? What am I open to? And so each day may look different based on what's on your agenda, the people you're with, what you have time for. It may be 5 minutes here. It might be, a whole experience, it may be different, but I think being, saying, what do I need? Do I need movement? Do I need nature? Do I need surrounded by people I love? Do I need connection? What is it that I need? And so being willing to ask yourself that, I think, is so key. I need music all the time. I put music on and it lifts my spirits, or, takes me to a space. So I use a lot of music. And the other thing I was going to say, it's just laughter, right? So I need to laugh. And I have a couple of people in my life that make me laugh. So I'll seek them out, and I feel like putting yourself in the space of people that lift you up. You've heard me talk about, Sandy, you and I talked about Brené's book, but Freud and Fruit is my favorite thing from that whole book. Yeah. Give yourself be with people that lift you up, be that for each other. Right. And I just feel like on a daily basis, find somebody that lifts your soul, because they're worth it. They're worth it to you. And, it's a way to fan your flame. So those are kind of some basic things I do.
Yeah. And it's so interesting that I think it's so important that what you just said to me was also, you got to have your community and your support system. And that was one that I struggled with a little, not because I don't have friends and, family and people around me, but I kind of had this mindset of, oh, they don't want to hear my problems. I can get through this. I don't want to burden other people with my issues. Right. And I think that is kind of something we learn from our parents in a way, right? It's a generational thing. And so you learn that. And I say it's wrong. The thing that where I've had the most success is knowing who my community is and who are those people that I can turn to for support. And for me, it's Beth, just like you said, it's almost like a daily for me, because, well, first of all, both of you I've already said are like gurus. You are my guides through both of you are people who have helped me on my own mental fitness journey. But also, like, it's like you said, like, I now know that in these days of coming out of the pandemic, we're all working from home. I'm in my basement right now. There's 2 small windows. I can barely see outside. Like, I have to get outside, but I also know that I have to get social. And I've learned I have to be intentional about it. So when I think about a to-do list, and you said it doesn't have to look like get the laundry done, get these invoices
Right.
completed, it can look like today I'm going to be intentional about spending quality time with my family, or
Right.
today I'm going to be intentional about reaching out to that friend who always makes me laugh. And I think that is something that I've learned I need on a consistent basis. And so I have to be intentional about it, because guess what happens if I don't? It doesn't happen. Right. And I find myself in a space where I'm like, I've gone 3 days and hardly talked to anyone, or talk to the person or the people maybe that I needed to talk to help me to get in the people that help me get in the right headspace when I'm not there. And I think that's so important. One of the things I want to explore later down the road, because unfortunately we don't have time today, but it all has come back to the body mind connection. And Jen, you made a comment that said we're very disconnected. And Beth, you've also said the importance of it is so powerful because your body is telling you so much. So I think sometimes figuring out how to listen to those things is something that's difficult. That is a process, and that's something we need to work on. And again, that to me is part of that daily mental fitness journey. So maybe that's part 2 of what we talk about. If you guys are good with that, I would love to take that conversation to a much deeper level and really explore that further. So this has been wonderful. I think we've had a lot of great insights here today. You two, I find, are just so fascinating, and just getting your insights and hearing your own journeys has been so powerful for me. So I just want to share it with as many people as possible. But I'm curious, if people want to learn more about you as individuals, tell me where they can find you on social media. Beth, where can they find you?
Sure thing. So I am the Grounded Canary, and I am on Instagram and also Facebook. And I love to hear people's stories. We all want to be seen and heard. And so they can find me there and tell me their story. I would love to hear.
Awesome. And Jen, where can people find you?
I'm mostly on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook, but on Instagram, it's at Spirited Treasure, or my website, which is www.spiritedtreasure.com. Those would be the best ways to find me.
Awesome. I follow both of you, and I actually look to both of your social media for like daily inspiration, because you guys post such great inspirational things, and it inspires me. So I encourage our audience to do the same and start following you both on social media and check out their websites as well. Jen's got some great products on her website that some amazing candles that I love to give people with crystals in them, and they smell amazing. So there's a lot on there, but definitely check it out. And thank you guys so much for being here today. I look forward to part 2 when we continue this conversation.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me, Sandy. This was one of my Freudenbrütes today, surrounding myself with people I love. I was excited. It was a nice little carrot to start a Monday with. I
know, right? It really is. It really is. It's a great start.
Like a Monday like this.
Yeah. Right. Well, I appreciate you guys being here. You've been listening to the Her Journey Told podcast, and you can find us in other episodes where you can find podcasts on Apple and Spotify. So please sign up and listen to more podcasts. You've been listening to the Her Journey Told podcast, powered by Pivotal Moments. For more inspirational content, go to pivotalmoments.org. I'm Sandy Lutton. Thanks so much for joining us. Make sure to keep an eye out for more episodes where podcasts can be heard. See you next time.